Bonnie, my wife, had picked out Moore College of Art to study illustration, so I was committed to putting her through the art school, and I got a job teaching. It was in a private school, and everything was really beautifully done there. It was great facilities. The kids were a delight to spend the day with, and the headmaster was a great guy. It was a perfect job, but I didn't like it much because I wasn't going to get rich and famous there. And I learned on TV and radio that those are the two paths to happiness: rich, famous. I preferred fame over rich, you know, if I had to choose one, but both would be nice. So I was sort of kind of marking time, you know, putting my wife through college. That was my identity, and that's not the bell. And the clock was ticking because I had turned 30 during the year, and you know how 30 is. You can't be precocious anymore. You have to actually come up with some responsibility, and so I was really worried about who I was going to be and how I was going to express myself. Well, one summer, the summer before my wife's last year in college, and this was the year I had to make the decision. I went to Wolf Creek Wilderness School. My brother was the program director down there, and we led a team of teenagers through the wilderness. We went kayaking and rock climbing, and it was cool. And I got back into the school year after summertime, and I was surprised to get a letter from a private school about one of the kids that we'd had on our team. His name was Brad. Now, Brad was a good guy, and I wanted to do right by him. He had some issues, though, and he was a target in his old school. I found out about that on crew, and people picked on him. It was tough for him to build a support around himself, tough to make friends. So I wanted to do right, but the school was so earnest. They said, "We want to make sure that we're the right school for Brad, so please be candid with your remarks." So I framed it all up with his attributes in the beginning, and then I discussed in as positive a frame as possible that the guy was picked on all the time. He was a target. And it took me 8 hours to make this letter. It was a page and a half. And by the time I was finished, I was satisfied with the letter, but I was pissed. Because that was Sunday, my day of discretionary freedom. On Sunday, all day long, all week long, and on Saturdays I was doing custodial, serving kind of stuff, you know, teaching kids and serving. And my ego says, "Oh yeah, you're advocating for everyone else, you're serving everyone else but yourself." So I was enraged. I went into the bathroom, and there was a roach on the wall about 3 inches, and I looked at that as a metaphor for my life. I saw that roach, and I said, "Oh, mother, look at you. You're just there on the wall. You're a symbol of how bankrupt my life is. I have no idea what I'm going to be, who I am." So I slowly grabbed an economy-sized tube of toothpaste, and I went, "Die!" And I lunged toward the roach. Now the roach, the reason they've been around for 300,000 years or more is that they sense the danger way before it manifests. So he goes, bling, steps out of the way. And this enrages me even more. Here, a dumb cockroach is outwitting me. You know, I can't even kill a cockroach. So I say, "Die, die!" And I'm chasing it across the wall and into the medicine cabinet. And I punch at it in the medicine cabinet, and there are glass shelves in there shattering. And it falls in the kitchen, in the bathroom sink. I say, "Oh, great, now I've made more work for myself. There goes more discretionary time down the tubes." My wife calls in from the kitchen, the other room in our 2-room flat, and she says, "Bill?" I say, "I'm fine." And I close the mirror door and I see an image of myself there. And I say, "You asshole." And I go, boom! And I hit myself in the jaw. And I go, oh, like that. And I smell iron in my nose. And I think, I just hit myself. What the? Well, who would hit themselves? That asshole in the mirror. That's who. Boom, 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 boom. Hit myself 4 or 5 more times. I was taking punishment and it was going nowhere. And I finally said, I'm going to bed. So I took out my journal and I drew murderous self-portraits of myself, a knife in my chest and a bomb lit next to my head. And after a while, I went to sleep. The next morning I got up and I said, "Dan, I snapped last night. I went off my nut. And when is it going to happen again? I better take care of business. I better find out just who I am and where I'm going." So for the next year, while Bonnie was in her last year of school, I went to workshops. I studied the dictionary of occupational titles, and I did some research that carried me right back to that same journal, 3 pages in front of those murderous portraits were stories that I had written down, that other people had told, that I really liked. I was studying all that time to be a storyteller. And I thought, you know, that's who I'll be. I'll be a storyteller. That's my identity. But then I thought, well, how could I possibly be happy if I'm not rich or famous?